In this episode, we're putting our eyes on the new player options in Xanathar's Guide to Everything.
Welcome back, adventurers. I'm Kelly McLaughlin.
And I'm Monty Martin.
And we are
the Dungeon Dudes.
So on today's episode, we're taking a look at the first chapter of Xanathar's Guide to Everything, which is jam-packed
players' options.
with player options.
So full of player options.
How many player options are there, Monty?
Well, there's 31 brand new subclasses, which are pretty much battle tested because some of them were pulled out of the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide and put into here. And the rest pretty much have all gone through some form of testing in the Unearthed Arcana series on the Wizards of the Coast D&D website.
Yeah. On today's episode, we're actually going to be talking about what me and Monty have decided are the best and the not best. I won't say there's any bad ones, but I mean, like, there are ones that really, really stand out, and there's ones that are good.
Yeah, there's 31 new subclasses in Xanathar's Guide to Everything, meaning that there are at least 2 for every single class in the player's handbook, with the exception of the wizard, who gets shortchanged with 1. And we're going to talk a little bit about everything that's in the chapter, because beyond just the player's options, there's also about 1 or 2 new feats for every one of the races in the player's handbook, as well as this awesome section called This Is Your Life, which will help you develop your character's backstory. I think first we're going to dive in, though, and start talking about the subclasses that we really, really like.
So let's take a look.
I think the first subclass that really sticks out to me is the Forge Cleric.
The Forge Cleric. This one I read a little bit of. It was the biggest cleric subclass that definitely stood out to me. What were some of your favorite features about it?
I just think it's first of all, I think it hits a niche that was needed in the cleric list, right? I think that dwarves needed a really clear, like, god of the forge, and I don't think that, like, the life domain or the fire domain really handled, like, having a dwarven god of the forge.
Yeah, lets your dwarves be dwarvy.
And also, I think people are going to really like having the heavy armor proficiency, being able to make your weapons and armor magical on your terms. Mm-hmm. And it has a pretty awesome spell list that includes Wall of Fire and Animate Objects, which are 2 spells that I really love and I think are really awesome for clerics to have.
Yeah.
One of the archetypes that changed quite a bit was the Cavalier for the fighter. And the reason why I like the Cavalier is because it has the return of the 4th edition style marking feature for the fighter. So you get to kind of mark a target, and it has to attack you, and if it doesn't, it's penalized for not doing so.
So you're basically like, it's almost, there's that paladin spell.
It's similar to one of those paladin spells, but in a non-magical sort of way.
Yeah, it's more just you're calling them out and you're making them your mark.
Yeah, this isn't the first class that actually has this kind of feature. The Barbarian Path of the Ancestral Guardian, earlier in the book, also gets it.
Cool.
I just think the Cavalier is a little bit cooler. It's not super dependent on having a mount, though, which I think is a success for the class overall.
There is a section next on monks, and playing a monk myself right now, I decided to look through that section. There wasn't anything that blew my mind, but I will say a lot of people are going to be happy about the inclusion of the Drunken Master.
The Drunken Master. Kind of an iconic...
Yeah, if you've seen, Jackie Chan, Drunken Master, great movie. But yeah, it's nothing that really leaps off the page as the most incredible subclass, but they did nail the idea surrounding the Drunken Master, and I think it's a lot of fun, including a very high-level skill where you can just spend your turn, and as long as you hit different targets with each attack, I think you can do, like, a flurry of, I think it's like 5 or more attacks in one turn, but each one needs to be on a different target, so you're just running around smashing into everybody as a Drunken Master, which is kind of fun.
The other one I think for the monks that people will think is really cool is the Kensi, or the Kensai, because it gives you more access to using more weapons with your monk. Yeah. Including, I think that you can actually use a ranged weapon, so you can do an archer monk with the Kensai, which is kind of neat.
Now,
The Paladin is the next one that I think is a cool one, and that's the Oath of Conquest.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit different from the Oath of Vengeance, because instead of being, this is kind of the closest I think you can get to, like, an evil Paladin in the Oath of Conquest, or like a Hell Knight sort of thing. I think it's really, really an interesting class, and also it's a Paladin subclass that gets Spiritual Weapon.
Pretty cool.
And Bestow Curse, so its expanded spell list is pretty neat.
What I think one of the biggest successes of this book for player options is the Ranger subclasses, because Ranger was a class in general that I overlooked. I read about them in the player's handbook, and I said, you know what, I have no interest in playing a Ranger until I read the Gloomstalker.
The Gloomstalker gets some really amazing features, including the ability to be invisible in darkness from creatures that have dark vision.
Yeah. I think that, combined with just the fact that they also get Rope Trick as an automatic spell.
And the Ambush Master.
Master.
It's just absolutely awesome. The other ones, like the Horizon Walker and the Monster Slayer, I think are also really, really interesting and strong subclasses for the Ranger. And the one thing that is a really common question about the player's options is many people have known that there's been a revised version of the Ranger published in Unearthed Arcana. That project is now gone. So if you have a player that's been using the revised Ranger, you might want to think about dialing that one back now, because the revised Ranger options really do address some of the problems with the Ranger. I think also combined with the new spells that Rangers get, really makes the Ranger a tight class. And I wouldn't let someone playing the Unearthed Arcana Ranger use the new stuff in Xanathar's Guide to Everything, because I think that might take that over the edge in terms of power.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So you might want to dial that back, but let them pick one of the new subclasses.
The Sorcerer, I think the big one to mention here is the Divine Soul Sorcerer, who gets access to the Cleric spell list for choosing their spells.
That's pretty big.
It's a huge deal. Although I think that you'll find with the Sorcerers have such a restricted spell list, I think that it's actually okay that they have access to all those spells, because it's going to make the choice of which spells to take really, really challenging.
The other big success for me was the Warlock, another one that I read in the player's handbook and said, meh, but now the Warlock, combined with the new spells that you get,
and the Eldritch Invocations.
The new Eldritch Invocations.
And this is an important thing to mention with the Warlock, because even if you don't change your subclass for your Warlock, you've got all new invocations, which are all really, really quite good.
Yeah.
My only concern with the Warlock and the Warlocks here is it's still a very front-loaded class. If you play a Hexblade, for instance, right away at first level, you get medium armor, martial weapons, shields, and the ability to use your charisma for melee attack rolls with certain weapons. So it means that you could multi-class as a paladin to warlock.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden use your charisma for your melee attacks. So that might be something to just flag right off the bat. But I do think that the later features of the warlock actually encourage you to go up to high levels with your warlock. I was really hard pressed to multi-class with the warlock Hexblade, because I wanted to get the ability to summon the Spectre and use the higher level invocations, because they're really quite good.
Definitely.
This Is Your Life section is a huge series of tables that you can use to randomly generate or inspire your character's backstory.
Yeah, if you have a player or if you yourself have trouble coming up with all the intricacies of your backstory, they have a whole bunch of tables that you can roll on to find out basically every aspect of your backstory. And then you can fill in the gaps.
The most important one, I think, and this is really the most important question when you do create a player character, is it has tables that help you answer the question, why are you a member of your class? Why did you become a fighter? Why did you become a wizard? And how? But also, it does that for all the backgrounds in the player's handbook, too.
Why am I an acolyte? Why am I a charlatan?
So I think for myself as a dungeon master, I'm going to ask my players to use this section to fill in more details of their characters. This also combined that every class also got its own little tables of quirks. Wizards, there are eccentricities. Barbarians have, what tattoo do you have? Paladins have details of their oaths. I really liked for the clerics, they have their cleric secrets, And one of the cleric secrets is you don't actually believe that the gods are gods. They're just powerful mortals, but you're still a cleric that worships them.
That was like my paladin last game.
I know. It's super cool.
It's all in there.
It's all in there. There's also some really awesome feats for each player character race, including some really great ones for humans that actually give you expertise and skills.
Yes.
And the amazing elven accuracy feat, which elves and half-elves are going to like. Yeah.
I'm taking the expertise from my guy.
So all I can say is go out, pick it up. Tell us what you think in the comments, too. We would love to know if you disagree with us on our favorite picks, or if you think that we got them right. And so those are our thoughts on the new players' options, subclasses, feats, and backstory creation items in Xanathar's Guide to Everything. But it doesn't actually stop there, because there's even a whole chapter on new spells that you can use for your character. We've made a whole separate video covering that, and you can find that right up over here.
Or if you're really excited about the player options and need help creating a character, we have a video series on that over here.
You can pick up the book by following the links right down below.
Make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode.
Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time
in the dungeon.